Hello and welcome back to Funeral Industry Insights. This is a podcast where we talk about one of life's toughest subjects and the different aspects of the funeral industry. I'm your host, Michelle Dwyer, and today we're diving into a topic that often doesn't get much attention until we're personally touched by it, and that's the coronial process in New South Wales. This process comes into play when someone passes away in circumstances that need investigation. It's a system designed not only to answer difficult questions about a person's passing, but also to help the community stay safe in the future. So let's walk through from the moment that someone passes away right through to the final outcome. So what a lot of people don't understand is that not every death in New South Wales is referred to the coroner. Most deaths are expected and occur under medical care. So whether that's after a long illness in hospital or if someone's in a nursing home, in those cases, a doctor will just issue a medical certificate which states the cause of the death. Even if someone passes away at home, but they're still in the care of a doctor, the doctor will still issue a medical certificate. But there are certain situations where the law does require that the death is reported to the coroner. So these deaths can include unexpected, or if they're like sudden or even unexplained, if it's a result of an accident or an injury or even violence, if it occurs in unusual or suspicious circumstances, if it's a death in custody, or if someone's like in prison or in prison care or in police care, sorry. If it's the death of children in certain situations, and also if the identity of the person is unknown. So in these cases, quite often the police is usually the first people to attend, and then they gather the initial information. A report is then made to the Coroner's Court of New South Wales, and from that point on, the death becomes part of the coronial process. So once the death is reported, the coroner then has jurisdiction, which simply means that the legal responsibility to investigate. Okay, so at this stage, one of the first things that usually happens is your loved one is taken to a forensic medicine facility. So most often it's the Department of Forensic Medicine in Lidcombe, or there are other regional centres across the state as well. So here at these facilities, trained forensic pathologists and other professionals may carry out certain examinations. A post-mortem or autopsy is not always required. So sometimes the cause of death can be determined just simply from medical records, witness accounts, or other evidence. So quite often they'll liaise with your own GP and things like that, and they might be able to determine the cause of death by simply just by having those conversations. But if the coroner believes that more information is needed, then a post-mortem may be ordered. Okay, so this examination, this will help to establish things like the cause or the manner of death, whether it was natural, whether it was accidental, the result of misadventure, or even in some cases, homicide. So families are notified when a post-mortem is planned. They do have the right to raise objections. Often this is because of cultural or religious reasons. However, the coroner will always consider the objections, but the law does give the coroner the final authority to decide if an autopsy is necessary in the interests of justice and obviously public safety as well. So quite often toxicology testing, which is like where they check for drugs, alcohol, poisons, that's a common part of the process as well. So these results can sometimes take weeks or even months to return and to get final readings on final findings. So while medical examinations are happening, the police are still usually working on behalf of the coroner to continue the investigations as well. So this can be obviously interviewing witnesses, reviewing any CCTV footage, collecting the medical records, examining the scene where the death may have occurred, and then preparing those detailed reports as well. So the coroner's role isn't about laying blame or prosecuting a crime. Its focus is on establishing facts, quite often the identity of the person, and when they died, and most importantly, how and why that they've passed away. So one question that we often get asked by families is, when can we proceed with a funeral? So as a funeral director, when a family does advise us that their loved one is in the care of the coroners, we'll often sit down with them and begin the process of organising a funeral. However, we don't book a date of the funeral until the coroner does actually release your loved one into our care. So this is generally once the coroner is satisfied that no further examinations need to take place. Okay, so your loved one can then formally be released to your chosen funeral director. And one thing to keep in mind here is this time frame can vary. Okay, so it can be as little as a few days with the coroner, but it can take longer if specialist tests are needed, which is often the case. Sometimes we see, a few days, but sometimes we can see a few weeks as well. So just always bear that in mind, that time frame will vary. Even though the family are now able to conduct the funeral service once your loved one's released to us by the coroner, that coronial process may still be ongoing. Okay, so in many cases, the coroner makes a finding on the papers. Now, simply what that means is, after reviewing all the reports, evidence, test results, the coroner is able to determine the cause and the circumstances of the death without holding a formal court hearing at all. Okay, so the coroner then issues a finding. An official document, what that does is it sets out who the person was, where and when they passed, and the medical cause of their death. Families are provided with this information, and in some cases, recommendations may be made to prevent similar deaths in the future. For example, changes like in safety procedures, warnings to the community, or referrals to relevant authorities as well. Sometimes the circumstances are too complex or they're too important to resolve just on paper. In these cases, this is where the coroner may order an inquest. So an inquest is a public court hearing held in the coroner's court. It's not a criminal trial. Nobody is found guilty or innocent, but evidence is presented, witnesses may be called, and lawyers can appear to assist in the court as well. So inquests are held to answer questions where the cause of death may be unclear, or there's significant public interest or systematic issues that they need to be explored, like deaths in custody or medical procedures or workplace accidents. So usually at the end of an inquest, the coroner hands down a formal finding and importantly may also make recommendations aimed at probably preventing future deaths. These recommendations can influence law reform, change public policy, and safety standards can also be amended across the state as well. So going through the coronial process can be extremely difficult for families, especially because they're already grieving. But it often means waiting weeks, months, it's sometimes years for answers, and dealing with unfamiliar legal and medical language as well, which is difficult. The Coroner's Court does have a counselling and support service, and families are kept informed through regular updates from police and court staff as well. But families can also request to see the findings in full. They may also choose to participate in inquests through legal representation of their own as well. So what does the process look like at the very end? So when the coroner issues their finding, whether that's just after reviewing evidence privately and issuing it on papers, or following an inquest, it becomes the official record of how that death has occurred. So the death is then registered formally with the Registry of Births, Deaths and Marriages, and the family can obtain a death certificate. So this is usually done via your funeral director. So for some, the coroner's recommendations may bring a sense of justice or closure. especially when those recommendations can lead to meaningful change, especially throughout the community. For others, it simply provides the answers that they need to understand what actually happened to their loved one. So the coronial process in New South Wales is designed with one clear purpose, and that's to find the truth about deaths, especially the ones that require investigation, and to use those truths to improve public safety. It's a process that balances the need for answers with respect for families. It can be long and painful. Its outcomes often reach far beyond the individual case because it usually helps prevent similar tragedies in the future. So that's pretty much it for us today. If you found this helpful, please share it with somebody else. There's a lot of people out there that just simply don't understand the coronial procedures and how the system works. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are still of the belief that every death needs to be reported to the coroner, which just simply isn't the case. And remember too, behind every case is a person, a family, a community, and we all deserve dignity and answers. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please remember to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until next time, take care and look after each other.